So my name's Daryl Brenton, a beekeeper at Kempsey, New South Wales. My business is Brenton's Bees and Honey. Currently run around 800 hives for primarily honey production. We have been beekeeping for, I'm fourth generation, so we've been beekeeping probably 80 years, something like that. My dad's done it all his life and his uncles and parents did it as well. So. We first discovered Varroa in our hives. It was through the DPI surveillance. So it was detected in one of my hives. So out of, I think I had 1,700 hives at the time, was located in one hive. Since then, since the euthanization and downsizing, I've had mites for probably 14, maybe 15 months now that I was aware of. So. When that transition to management occurred, I had all of my hives, bar one hive was caught in either purple or red zone. So, some hives were necessarily be euthanized, and others I had the option being caught in those zones. There was a short period of time where I could, responsibly downsize those hives. So, so I took that option to downsize with some of those hives, and went from something that I thought would have been difficult to manage, learning Varroa with the initial restrictions around Kempsey, and I just thought, let's just have a few less headaches going forward. Yeah, I think it suited me and my business to do that. Yeah, so having had Varroa for 12, 14 months or so, thereabouts, I've been happy to have had less bees. We're set up for honey production. So some of our gear and trucks, have sat a lot more idle than they have previously. Having less bees, I've got less staff, so that's where we currently sit at the moment. But I've been quite happy to have a bit less. You're still just as busy. Okay, less staff, you've got to take on a few more jobs yourself, so that fills up the gaps for that. But I've been quite happy to have less for a little while. So we'll just see what the future brings. But so Varroa treatments, we've used. You really don't have many options. We've used a variety of synthetic and organic treatments. One example, we had a round of synthetic treatments in hives, and we're back, 8 or 10 weeks later, and we're doing alcohol washes, and we'd come across one hive that we'd forgot to put the treatment in. So all the other ones were zeros, couldn't detect mites. However, the one we'd missed, it was over 100. So we then put a treatment in it, but it failed. It didn't work, and that was the end of that hive. So it's tricky not to miss them. That was the first one I'm aware that I've missed. I've had more queenless hives with some of the organic treatments. So some of those, are used because they're cheaper, and not only cheaper, but it's also a break from the synthetics. Prior to Varroa turning up, we were starting to breed most of our queens, not all, but most of our queens. With having a few less hives post Varroa, I've been able to do enough queens for myself, and I've found that quite helpful, because generally you've got queens on tap. So we've basically been finding more hives that fail with Varroa. So whether it's with the treatments or whether it's Varroa or a combination of both, who knows? But basically, I think it's been, like we were told before it turned up, queens will fail quicker. So that's been my that's been what I've found. And you know, I think having your own queens on hand, it's just been easier to, you know, patch up hives, get them going again, rather than we've got to order more queens and you're relying on someone else. So it's more work. Having less hives lets you, you know, breed your own queens, do a bit more. That way you're a bit more self-sufficient. You know, it's suited my business, it suited us. So it's meant that those dead outs don't sit in the shed for as long as they, you know, sometimes would. You can get bees back in them and get them out, you know, producing again. So. Yeah, just possibly find a bit of time to consciously decide, what is my business going to look like? Do I want to continue with the same amount of hives? Do I want to have less hives? Do I want to have more hives? You know, you might see opportunities out there with Varroa around, who knows? So, I don't know, just rather than just all of a sudden it's on you and then hit the panic button. So the future for us, the future for our business, I think it's as steady as it goes at the moment. You know, we're coming into winter now, so that's the time to keep your mites down, see what spring brings. We could build up again. You know, do we want to? Just have to suss those decisions out. But I think it's basically just steady as it goes. I don't want to rush back in and, you know, have a heap of bees and then find that, you know, all of a sudden viruses turn up and it's, you know, in trouble again. So more challenges. So I think just it's steady as it goes for a little while. So.